Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. This story takes place in Croatia, where a serene beach lies, nestled amidst a coastal paradise. However, lurking within this idyllic setting is an entitled family known to the neighborhood as the entitled Karens. Their insufferable behavior knows no bounds, as they relish in creating chaos and claiming ownership over everything within their reach. Living nearby, I've endured countless disturbances caused by the Karens. Their disruptive screams pierce the midnight air, but they hypocritically scold anyone who dares to play music during daylight hours. It's not uncommon for them to complain about the pets in our neighborhood, and I once witnessed them attempting to feed a neighbor's dog some suspicious mystery meat. Suffice it to say, their entitled nature knows no bounds, and they perceive the world as their personal kingdom. In the past, our encounters have escalated, involving noise complaints, improper garbage disposal, and even involvement with drugs. The police have been called on numerous occasions to tame their unruly behavior. The most recent altercation, prior to the beach incident, centered around my supposedly noisy car. Despite the baseless accusations, the police reassured me that it was merely another Karen tantrum. Fast forward to the fateful day at the beach, which would forever change the dynamics of our relationship. I had traveled approximately 10 kilometers from my home, seeking solace on the sandy shores. It was a chilly Sunday, but the allure of the beach beckoned me. As I arrived, I noticed the presence of the Karen family's imposing camper. Determined not to engage with them, I secured a spot far away and settled under the comforting shade of a nearby tree, ready to savor the cold breeze and gaze at the majestic sea. However, my tranquility was abruptly shattered when Karen herself approached me, wearing a sneer of entitlement. "You have to leave. You're trespassing," she asserted, her voice dripping with disdain. "Why? I'm not leaving." "This is not trespassing," I retorted, my anger building. "This is private property, and we're not allowing you to stay here," she bellowed, her entitlement oozing from every word. "This is a public property, a beach for everyone to enjoy. I'm not budging, and that's the end of it," I declared defiantly, reclining on my towel. "What about all the other people here?" I challenged. "I'll kick them out too," she threatened with a wicked grin. As Karen walked away, I tried to regain my composure and closed my eyes, hoping to find solace despite their presence. However, my brief respite was shattered when I felt a shadow cast upon my face. Opening my eyes, I found Karen standing above me, a beer bottle in hand. Without warning, she doused me with the icy liquid, leaving me in shock. Anger welled up within me as I sprang to my feet, snatching the bottle from her grasp. "You know I could smash your head with this bottle," I seethed, my words laced with a mix of fury and restraint. "Stop playing games," I warned, attempting to temper the situation. "Hitting me on my private property? I don't think so," she taunted, provoking my desire to retaliate. "One more time, this is not your property," I emphasized. Discarding the bottle into a nearby trash bin, I returned to my secluded spot. Observing the Karens huddled together, it became evident that they were concocting their next scheme to confront me. Their eyes darted my way, exchanging whispers and laughter, fueling their malicious intent. Their plan finally took shape as Karen approached me, brandishing a menacing baseball bat. I stood my ground, ready to face whatever absurdity they concocted this time. "If you don't leave our property, I'll hit you with this baseball bat," Karen threatened, her voice dripping with venom. With a steady gaze, I met her eyes and responded, "This is not your property. What's wrong with you? This is a beach, our beach. It belongs to all of us." Determined not to let fear weaken my resolve, I added, "Hit me if you dare." Infuriated by my defiance, Karen reached for her phone and dialed the emergency number, summoning the police to enforce her distorted version of reality. I calmly waited, knowing the truth would prevail once the authorities arrived. Soon enough, the police officers arrived, with Karen eagerly pointing me out as the problem. An officer approached, addressing me with a neutral tone. "What seems to be the problem here, sir?" I seized the opportunity to recount the events truthfully, explaining, "I came to the beach to enjoy my day, minding my own business." But Karen here claimed it was her private property, despite it being a public beach. The officer assured me that this beach is indeed public, adding, "Ma'am, you cannot make him leave, nor can you call the police every time you disagree with someone's presence. Please stop harassing this man." Defeated, Karen watched as the police departed, leaving her seething with rage. Her family, however, refused to let the matter rest. They continued their tirade, vehemently asserting their ownership over the beach and threatening everyone who dared to challenge them. It was clear that reasoning with them would be futile, but I resolved to take matters into my own hands, seeking a form of poetic justice. Observing their massive camper parked in a designated handicapped spot, I made a discreet call to a towing company. A smile crept across my face as I witnessed their bewildered expressions upon seeing their precious vehicle being towed away. Enraged and undoubtedly suspecting my involvement, Karen unleashed her wrath on the tow truck operator. "It's my property. I can park wherever I want," she screamed, her entitlement blinding her to the consequences of her actions. Remaining composed, the tow truck operator calmly replied, "This is a public beach, ma'am. Someone reported your camper parked in a handicapped spot and they were correct. We are towing it, and you can retrieve it tomorrow once you've paid the fine." As they were forced to trek home on foot, I couldn't help but savor the sight. Driving past them on my way home, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. Perhaps, I thought, I wouldn't need to move out just yet. There was still some innocent revenge to be savored. The following day, they grudgingly paid the fine, reclaiming their beloved camper. Strangely enough, silence descended upon their once boisterous existence. It seemed as if the events at the beach had instilled a modicum of humility within them. As the days turned into weeks, the Karens faded into the backdrop of the neighborhood, no longer wreaking havoc or instigating conflicts. Their entitlement had been curbed, and peace gradually returned to our lives. It was a welcome respite, and I couldn't help but appreciate the poetic justice that had unfolded. With a renewed sense of hope, I continued to embrace the beauty of the beach and the tranquil moments it offered. As for the Karens, their claim of ownership over the public beach had been shattered, serving as a reminder that entitlement can be overcome and that justice has a way of prevailing. The neighborhood breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that their tyrannical reign was over. The next one is a pro-revenge story. The background. I lived with a group of people who I thought were my friends. They were two couples, and we all lived in the same house for almost 2 years until I recently moved out. There were David and Tina, and Brittany and AJ. I was the only single person there. There was a debate on how we should pay the bills, but we all decided to give the money to the person whose name was on the bill. David paid the mortgage, Tina paid the water and electric gas, and I paid the internet. It came to the point where I was paying close to 80% of the mortgage by myself, the entire water bill, about 75% of the gas and electric, and I was paying the internet bill by myself. I was giving the money still to the person in charge of the bill, but came to find out about 10 days before I moved out that the mortgage was defaulted on and the house was in foreclosure. Also, the water, gas, and electric bills were in constant threat of being shut off, and the only up-to-date bill was the internet. While they all saw me struggle to pay these off, they were mindlessly spending money during the day, which is when I sleep due to working the night shift. So I never saw the mindless things they spent money on, nor did I ever see the mail since they grabbed it before I woke up. Brittany never paid anything as her check was being garnished due to unpaid student loans, but she always had expensive makeup. AJ never held a job for more than 2 weeks. David and Tina were always calling into work, knowing that I wouldn't allow them to go without a home due to our history. One day, I woke up while they were all out and about doing something or other, so I went to check the mail as I was expecting a package. When I saw the bills in the mail, I decided to investigate. I opened up the gas and electric bill, as they are from the same company, to see a total amount of almost $400 and at risk of being shut off. I was shocked and pissed. I knew right then and there what was going on, and I vowed to screw them over as hard as I could. The revenge. I had just interviewed for a new job that paid almost double what I was making, and I knew that I interviewed well with them, so I told myself that if I got the job, I would give them a 30-day notice and move out. As it was close to the end of the month, and I had already paid them, I would be moving out before the 1st of February. I got the call with the job offer the next day, which I happily accepted. I did the paperwork for the background check, and it all came back clean. The same day I accepted the offer, I typed out a 30-day notice and recorded myself, with my phone in my breast pocket, handing it to them, explaining that I was moving out. I started my job and my hunt for an apartment close to my new job, which I found within a week of starting. I took almost the entirety of my checks, set them aside for rent, deposit, and basic things that I would need. I was asked several times to help with the next month's bills, to which I said no, as I was saving for my own place and they had plenty of time to come up with the money between the four of them, because I was doing it all by myself pretty much on a meager pay rate of $11 an hour before my new job. There were a lot of scowls, passive-aggressive behavior, and flat-out attempts to take or use my things or foods without permission. The day finally came when I went and got my U-Haul and had a few friends help me move. Free beer and free lunch are the best payment ever, as they shared it all with me. I was determined to get everything in one go, so I rented the biggest truck they had, and we packed everything up. I took everything that was mine, down to my pizza stone, which they loved, my expensive kitchen knives, which they would use and never clean, and even my toilet paper that I had bought just 3 days prior because I needed it. A few rolls went missing very quickly. After moving everything, I sat down on my couch, looked around with my cat in my lap, and breathed a sigh of relief. I happened to be good friends with my previous neighbors. We often smoked together, and I asked them to keep an eye out for anything out of the ordinary. 4 days went by, and I found out that the gas, electric, and water had all been turned off. They were asking to fill up some buckets to manually flush the toilets, bathe in, etc. Now, both couples had dogs, which my cat hated as they were both hyperactive as hell, but I loved them. So I decided that those dogs were in a dangerous situation as they had no water, no heat in the middle of winter, and probably no food since I had bought the last bag about 2 weeks prior. I hate to see an animal hungry. I called the local humane society and left an anonymous tip about the dogs, expressing my concerns for their well-being. The very next day, my neighbor Todd texted me, telling me that the dogs had been removed from the home and my previous housemates were being charged with neglect. Due to the lack of utilities, these were not civil issues but criminal charges. This was enough to make me smile, but I wanted more. I knew that David was divorced and had a child, and I also knew that he wasn't paying child support. I then contacted the local courts and informed them about the blatant non-support, hoping they could assist the agency looking for him. I provided the address we had lived at and stated that the homeowner was the one who was being sought. It came to light that he was almost $25,000 behind in payments, which is a felony in the state where I live. He is now living on someone's couch as Tina left him, the house has been foreclosed on, and he has nothing to his name while facing multiple criminal charges. The moral of the story: don't take advantage of a friend who knows all your dirty secrets. The next one is a petty revenge story. I never really believed in the stereotype of the condescending, holier-than-thou vegan. I figured it was an invention of omnivores who like to make fun of vegans and project some kind of judgmental attitude onto them. And then I met her. She came into this really solid Asian fusion restaurant that does carry out. She was talking to her friend, and the gist of the conversation was that she was appalled that she was even in this restaurant. The food didn't even count as vegan since they also served meat. In fact, for the 10 minutes that I knew her, she basically had nothing nice to say about anyone or anything. It was pretty spectacular, listening to one person manage to say nothing nice for 10 minutes. She could win gold in the Ass Olympics. I had been standing in line patiently, waiting to place an order, with one person in front of me. As she walked in, that person finished ordering, at which point she breezed by me like I didn't even exist. "I'd like a tofu lo mein." The woman behind the counter looked at me and I coughed politely. "I'm sorry, I was here first." This elicited the biggest, most, "how dare you waste my time" eye roll I've ever seen, and she wordlessly stepped back. I ordered chicken fried rice. Then she ordered her tofu lo mein and we stepped back to wait for our food. 10 minutes later, the first order popped up, at which point this woman, mindlessly chatting with her friend about how much someone they both knew is a total idiot, swiped the order without thinking and without a thank you, and stormed for the door in a desperate hurry to ruin other people's evenings somewhere. My first thought was, isn't it likely that my order finished before yours? And I almost said it. And then I realized she was storming out with a meal she really, really didn't want. The next meal popped up about 2 minutes later. I grabbed it, knowing there was a solid chance it was tofu, thanked the very nice woman behind the counter, and left without stopping to open it, afraid that if I wasted a second's time, that angry shrew might have stormed back in and corrected her oversight. I triumphantly ate a tofu lo mein back at home that night. Well, I ate the lo mein and picked around the tofu. I don't know if that harpy returned demanding her correct meal or if she just got home, realized it was chicken fried rice, and threw it away dejectedly. I just hope she felt some level of the misery she seemed to enjoy forcing on everyone around her. The next one is an entitled people story. Some years ago, I dated a girl. The relationship was bad. She was very controlling and abusive. It ended up really badly, and we broke up. I kept going on with my life, and after some years I got a decent job, enough to solve all my needs, have a comfortable life, and make some savings. The thing is, a couple of months after getting my job, my ex contacted me. She first asked me to talk. I believed that she may want to reconnect or something, but she showed up with a 5-year-old child, claiming he was my son and demanding child support. I didn't believe her, but the child's age matched the time since we cut contact. I got advice from a lawyer, a friend of mine, to try to solve this out of court. I offered to take responsibility, pay all the costs, and be an active part of the kid's life, only after making a DNA test. Everyone was okay with this except for my ex. She acted offended and demanded to just give her the money she deserved. She used all the excuses she could, even contacted my family to tell them I was trying to avoid taking responsibility for her child. When she ran out of excuses and the DNA test was finally made, surprise! I'm not the father. She was so mad with the result and cried about the money, saying it was unfair and she deserved it. But she didn't accomplish anything. Moving on to last week, there was a little party at my parents' house. My brother, a friend, and I were talking when my brother started to joke about the situation with my ex. My friend and I started to joke about it too. Some of our comments were a little dark and bad, but we were far away from the rest of the people, literally on the opposite side of the house, and nobody else could hear us. At least that was what we thought. We were laughing like crazy when my sister appeared very angry and pushed me against the wall. She spied on us and overheard our conversation, and she was really mad. She started to yell at us about how horrible people we were for mocking a poor woman. A few hours later, when the party ended, she asked me to go to the kitchen with our parents, and she started to say how awful I was for the previous situation. Apparently, my ex had been in contact with her, and she believed her version, and that was her way to have an intervention. My brother and I were like, "Are you serious?" when she started to say how I forced my ex into being a single mother, and that I have the moral obligation to help her. My dad only said that we may have been too cruel making jokes about her, but that I wasn't responsible for that kid. My mom then surprised all of us when she said, "Even if the kid is not yours, you are making more than enough money to support that child. You should have helped her." Since then, I have been receiving texts. My dad and my brother are on my side, saying I'm not responsible for her, but my sister is telling me how horrible I am for ruining their lives. My mom only said, "It's your decision, and I respect it. I'm just very disappointed that you ended up being so selfish. I'm aware that she doesn't deserve my money, and I'm not planning to give her any, but the constant harassment from my sister trying to guilt me is just exhausting." The next one is an entitled parent story. Alrighty, a little bit of background info. I'm 20, I'm Jewish, I work in a toy store at my local mall. So the get your photo with Santa thing is right in front of the toy store at the mall I work at, which makes sense. Kids can look around while their parents wait in line. Parents can look for present ideas while their kids wait in line. They can all come in together after getting their photos taken, etc. This happened today at around 11 a.m. I'd been working at the toy store, and my boss lets me know I can go on my break, so I do. I had about 30 minutes to kill, and I wasn't particularly hungry, but when I walked by the Santa exhibit, I saw that there was almost no lineup because it was a weekday in the middle of the day. Most kids are at school, and most parents are working. So, since I'm an adult and don't celebrate Christmas, I thought a picture of me on Santa's lap would be a funny gift to give my family on Hanukkah when I'm home. So I get in line. There's one family who currently has their kids seeing Santa, one kid in front of me, and not long after, our entitled mother, entitled father, and their kids. They were all very lovely at first. We made a bit of small talk while we waited. I asked their kids how excited they were to see Santa, etc. The family in front of me goes, and in hindsight, I think the gears were starting to turn in the mother's head that I wasn't just an older sibling, and was actually there for myself. The family in front of me leaves. I get to tell the patron saint of prostitutes, no, seriously, look it up, what I want for the holiday I don't celebrate, and I get my pictures. Yes, I will include it in the comments. I go back to work and clock back in because even without the lineup, Just waiting for two families and getting the pictures printed and paid for took most of my lunch break. A few minutes later, the family from before comes in. The kids go off to look at toys. I give them a friendly little hi again, and I'm met with a very cold-hearted hello from the mother. Our store wasn't very busy either, given the day of the week and time of day. So while they browsed, I was showing my coworkers and boss the pictures that I got for craps and giggles. Then the mom stomps over like I just crap in her figgy pudding. I'm sorry, I just think it's very rude and immature to keep my kids waiting longer just for a joke. Me, there was no wait, at least not to see Santa. You're too old to believe in this crap. Keep in mind, her kids were the only kids in the store and she was yelling. Me, I've never believed in it, I don't celebrate Christmas. A little quieter because I'm actually capable of being courteous. Well, that's a whole other reason why you shouldn't have been there. You're ruining it for everyone else. Me, well, it doesn't really matter. Santa says I'm on the nice list and his word is law. I was very obviously screwing with them the whole time. It's a weird coping mechanism where I try to escape conflict by being funny. Well, God says you're gonna burn in hell. Me, I'm Jewish, we don't have hell. This isn't entirely true, I don't think. I'm not particularly religious, but I know some sects of Judaism say we don't have a hell. Others believe that it's more of a temporary thing where you spend time atoning and then get to go to heaven. I was just using the best comeback I could think of, my boss. Alright, I'm gonna need you to leave if you're gonna keep harassing my employee. The kids came back to find their parents. One asked if they could have one of the candy canes we have on our checkout counter. The mom said no, I said they were free and to go ahead. Both kids took a candy cane because free candy totally outweighs their mother's word, which is actually kind of a scary thought without context. The mom stared daggers at me, called me a name that rhymes with bike as they left, and I just smirked and gave a very happy Merry Christmas. My boss and coworkers are still laughing about it with me as I write this. We call them Kanye's parents for, well, obvious reasons. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.